Hey guys, welcome back. It's Tyler over at Hobby Jump. Today I'm going to show you how you can take your 12-inch adjustable crescent wrench and make it open up 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch wider. Let's head out to the shop and get started. We're back down here in the shop now. So what I have here is a 12-inch adjustable Klein Spud wrench. There's a lot of other companies that make these adjustable wrenches in the Spud configuration or normal adjustable wrench configuration. When you do this to a wrench, the only thing that the wrench has to have is on the nut, the shaft that holds that nut right there, it's got to be threaded. So you see how that shaft's threaded? That shaft comes down through this nut and holds this nut inside the wrench, which allows you to adjust the wrench open and shut. And how they're put in there is they just thread them all the way down, and then you can see this little dimple right here in the end of the wrench. That dimple, once that shaft's been threaded all the way down into the housing or the body of the wrench, they just take a chisel and over the top of the end of the shaft and they mar it so that the threads won't back out on you as you use the wrench. There are some crescent wrenches that have a shaft that's been pressed in. Those ones you can do this process on too. It's just much harder, and I can make another video if you guys would like on how to do that. The ones that are threaded in have just a flat head end on them, and I've already previously backed this out to the video. The way you remove that, or the way you back it out, is you can get some lube, some Aerocroil or WD-40. Any sort of lubricant helps aid the process, especially if the wrench is older. New wrenches that haven't been used yet are easier to do it on, but more or less you want to get a screwdriver set that has many different size tips in it, and find the right tip that fits that sleeve or that flat head right here really well. You can see how it's kind of marred up. They don't come out very easy, but they do come out, especially if you give them a little lube for aid. So get yourself a screwdriver that has multiple bits or tips in it, and it really aids in the process of removing it, because then you can get the exact right fit that fits the hole really nice. And a vise is handy. Put it in a vise. It makes it handy. You don't have to have a vise to do it. You can do it with your hands. I've done it before. So basically the process of what we're going to do here is we'll measure it, see kind of where we're at now. Right now the wrench is measuring 1.62, and I'm pretty confident that we can gain at least 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch out of this wrench. Once you get this nut backed out, you're going to thread it all the way the rest of the way out, and as it comes out, as that shaft comes out of this thumb nut or gnarled nut, whatever you want to call it, the wrench kind of has to be positioned just right, but this nut will come out. And then once this nut comes out, on the other side, the left-hand side, there's always a spring usually. Make sure not to lose that. It makes the wrench operate and function well. So take your nut and your spring and set it aside. And then that'll allow this first jaw, or the back jaw, to come all the way out of the wrench. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure these grooves, these teeth that ride inside this nut. These teeth sit inside this nut. There's a particular orientation. They're like a right and a left-hand thread, but these teeth sit inside that nut, and as you turn that nut, that's what allows the wrench to open and shut. So what we're going to do is, up here where you have more room, we're going to take our calipers and mark another tooth. So we're going to put another tooth in this, and you can perform this with a file or with a, I'm going to use a small air grinder, a little 90-degree air grinder. They're really handy. They're not too much. You can pick them up at Harbor Freight. Many manufacturers make these. They're really handy for doing tedious small work, but you could do this with a file or a hacksaw. It'd just take a little bit more time, and you'd have to be a lot more careful about the way that you did it. So I'll mark this up and I'll show some more shots of it and then get it prepared to cut. Now I've got the part cleaned up, and to get the marks or the layout for your next tooth, what you can do is you can take your calipers, and what I did is, it's 0.20 on this wrench. They're all a little bit different, but what you do is you just take the edge of the wrench or the edge of the tooth and the edge of the caliper teeth, and you measure from the inside edge or one edge of one tooth to the outside of the next tooth. Then you can take your calipers straight up and hold them right there, and then scribe yourself a little line, and then you do the same process on the back side and do the same thing and shrink it down. On this wrench it was like 0.06. So shrink it down. And then once you get it to 0.06, that'll show you how big your landing is. So do the same process, hold it here, and then scribe yourself a little line. Try to get a shot of it. I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but you can see two little scribe lines on there that are the exact angle of the teeth that are already in the wrench, and they're positioned the exact distance apart now. And you can scribe another line on the edge of the wrench for the depth. So you can scribe a line down here to show how deep you need to cut on both sides, and it'll make sure that your valley is the proper depth. So I'll get it in the vise and we'll get ready to cut it. So now I'm pretty satisfied with the little valley that I've got cut. They don't have to be exact. You have to have the right depth. If they're a little bit wider, it's not really that big of a deal. So don't stress about it if you can't get it exactly perfect. You can see how it's a skosh wider than the rest of the teeth. The depth's more important probably than the width. The angle's pretty important, but not way important. So now we're going to put it into the wrench and make sure it works and opens up. We'll see how much we got out of it. So we'll grab our wrench body and our jaw, slide the jaw in from the back just like we pulled it apart. Then grab the nut, put it in from the back side, then insert the shaft. We'll check and see how much we got out of it. Before we started, the wrench was at 1.62, and now we are at 0.82. So we've gained 3/16 of an inch on the opening of the wrench. I'm pretty satisfied with that. I don't quite need a quarter out of it. So I'll show you guys how to reassemble it. Take your wrench and then take your jaw. Slide the jaw back in from the back side. And then once you have your jaw in, you set that down. Grab your spring and your nut. So see how on this nut there's a tiny recess? One side has a recess in it. The other side of the nut is smooth. So take the side with the recess and your little spring, slide the spring down inside the recess, and then take your nut. I like to do it from the back. You can do it from the front. Make sure the spring stays in there. Slide the nut back up into the wrench. Take your shaft, slide your shaft down into your wrench body and then through the nut. You'll feel it go through 2 layers or 3 layers. The nut, the body of the wrench on the front side, and the body of the wrench on the back. Sometimes it gets hung up on the spring, but you'll be able to get it in, just fish it around by moving the nut. Then take your same size screwdriver head or flat head and tighten that back up. Now I've got the shaft threaded back in. You can see how it's slightly recessed, or it's slightly beneath the surface of the body of the wrench. If you can get it to that point, that's fine. If you can't, that's fine too. Take a vise or just put it against a hard surface. Get it really snugged up in the vise. Then take yourself a chisel and a hammer. And I like to go back in the same line that it was originally in. Get it lined up pretty good and give it a pretty hard smack. And now you can see that that has marred the surface of the body again. And slightly rolled that edge over a little bit into where the shaft goes through the body. That nut won't, or the shaft won't be able to back out now. Hey guys, I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video. One thing that I forgot to mention in the video is that when you are retracting that shaft out of the body of the wrench, make sure to use the proper size of flathead as you're coming out. So once you get out a little further, increase the size of it. It'll help risk the chance of stripping the flathead out. And if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe for future videos. If there's anything else you guys want to see me modify or do, comment below. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching.